It's 5 p.m. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. We're coming to you live from our studio at Desawe Kanda here in Accra. Also live on our numerous affiliates across the country. Around the world, we're streaming live on 3news.com. Download the TuneIn app from the Google Play, Apple, iOS store. Listen to us on the go. Coming up this evening, Electoral Commission says it will return to Parliament with the new CI insisting on the use of the Ghana card as the sole identifier in getting onto the electoral roll following minor registrations recorded during its ongoing limited voter registration process. Also tonight, civil society organizations demand the resignation of partisan EC commissioners amid threats of legal action to compel them to step aside. We'll hear from the coalition of civil society groups on this, who say they may be forced to use the courts to have this done. And much later, Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, criticizes the Interior and National Security Ministries for their silence on alleged protester brutality during the occupied Jolobi House protests. Much later, the minority is urging government to undertake restructuring of the balance sheet of the National Investment Bank rather than seeking to hand it over to the Agricultural Development Bank. A pleasure that you could be a part of this evening's bulletin. It's live on Facebook, 3FM927. That's our Facebook handle. Same handle as well on Twitter, 3FM927. Follow the conversation. Leave a message in that live stream for us on Facebook, or tweet at us with the hashtag Hot Edition on Twitter or X. Struggling to get to use the word X really, but use the hashtag Hot Edition on Twitter or X and follow the conversation on the many stories we'll be bringing to you this evening. We're going to start with the elections management body, that's the Electoral Commission, because it is this evening justifying its insistence on using the Ghana card as a sole identifier for persons to get into the country's electoral roll. It follows what the Commission says is the high number of minor registration recorded at its districts over the last 16 days. The Commission is currently undertaking a limited voter registration exercise ahead of the district level elections slated for December of this year. Addressing the media, Deputy Commissioner Bosman Asare, Dr. Bosman Asare, cautioned again against the registration of these said minors.
Including minors and foreigners do not register. As a commission, we are focused on ensuring and maintaining the credibility of the voters' register. This is the reason behind the proposed new CI or constitutional instrument, which will require the use of the Ghana card as the sole means of identification for new applicants to register as voters. Indeed, the Ghana card shows the age and citizenship of the bearer of the card, making it easier to identify those who are minors and those who are foreigners. The Electoral Commission believes that the guarantor system has outlived its usefulness, and we are convinced that the time is right for a system that every registrant is identified on his or her own merit, rather than another person vouching for the age and nationality of that person. We would like to use this opportunity to entreat parents to dissuade their wards who are less than 18 years old to be coerced by anyone to assume a new age and register as a voter, because they may find themselves on the wrong side of the law. Political party officials and members of political parties are also entreated to stop the practice of persuading people who are unqualified and ineligible, such as minors, from taking part in the registration exercise. We have noticed that the minors and foreigners have taken advantage of the guarantor system with the support of some members of political parties. As our key stakeholders, we expect the political parties to support us to ensure the voters register is credible, because if there are people who benefit from a credible voters register, We strongly believe the political parties will be one of the main beneficiaries. We are stressing on this because we continue to hear of reports from our officers on the ground and see pictures, videos from the districts of minors and other unqualified persons taking part in the registration exercise. We believe this must stop, and the parties, the media, CSOs, all of us must support the Electoral Commission to ensure the lane and the passage of our new proposed CI. Mr. MC, do we have some of the pictures of?
So that's Dr. Bosman Asare, Deputy Commissioner of the Electoral Commission, speaking there. That news conference ended a short while ago. Noble Crosby Annan is my colleague, therefore, as he joins us via the telephone lines with a bit more detail. So, Crosby, many thanks for joining us this evening here on Hot Edition. The subject of the registration of minors appeared to have been topical during this press conference by the Electoral Commission. Did they provide numbers as to what exactly it is that they've been seeing the last 16 days?
Right, Eric, the Electoral Commission, in the address by Dr. Bosman Asare, spoke about how the Commission is now detecting minors at its registration centers. We're talking about the district offices of the Electoral Commission, and I'll provide with you some numbers that the Commission outlined as to contributing to the need to call this press conference to encourage political parties and parents not to encourage their wards to be involved in such acts. So the Electoral Commission noted that amongst the things, there's a mention of the regions and how they are increasing or decreasing in votes. There's also a talk on persons with disabilities that so far about 1,314 PWDs are registered in all the 16 regions, and that represents 0.2% of the total applicants. There's also some concerns about the challenge cases. So by the 16th day of the registration, the AG says it has recorded 7,561 challenge cases in all the registration centers, and this constitutes 1.12% of all the registered voters. So in nominal terms, the Greater Accra region tops with 1,552 cases, and the Northeast region is bottom with 14 cases. The other regions are spread in between these numbers that I have mentioned to you, Eric. On the use of minors, as the Commission is detecting minors participating in the registration exercise, the Commission mentioned that about 7,000 of them have so far been detected, and that represents about 1% of the population in the voters' registration exercise area.
And so, over 1% of these minors captured so far, those have been captured as challenges, yet to be proven whether or not it is the case that they are minors. A number of questions were asked the Electoral Commissioner in this regard. You were there. What was the response, particularly on one perhaps argument being made that the numbers are being overflowed to insist on the use of the Ghana card amidst other things?
Right, Derek. So when I asked that question to Bosman Asare, the Deputy Commissioner of the Electoral Commission, his response was more of a scenario. So he painted a picture of how much votes the NPP won the 2020 general elections, and that was just about 40,000, close to 50,000. Now, if at every polling station in the country, if two minors are allowed to vote, then it means, look at the number that we're talking about at the end of the entire voting process. This was the picture that Bosman Asare painted, indicating that although the number may seem not huge, it is very significant in determining who becomes president of the country and who becomes member of parliament for any constituency. Hence, it is not something the Commission will be losing its gas or removing its gas on the pedal on. As a matter of fact, as a result, it is still pushing for SCI to be adopted by Parliament to make the Ghana card a sole document so that the citizenship of an individual is not in the hands of a third party. It is for the person himself to come defend his citizenship and how old he or she is to go through the exercise.
Right, Sir Noble Crosby, and let's take a listen to exactly what the responses were from Dr. Bosman Asare. Many thanks, Crosby.
They enter, they will show you, my name is this, I was born on this, and I'm 18 years old. That's what you can see. So I think that if you make the guarantor available, people will use it. And if you have the Ghana card also available, compare statistics to us, about 17.5 million people have been issued the Ghana card. And I think the media, you want to have a very credible register. All of us want to have a very credible register. And the Electoral Commission is convinced that the guarantor system has outlived its usefulness. And there was a related question. What happened to the challenge system? Because the guarantor system has outlived its usefulness, the challenge system is also a problem. And the Commission is saying to avoid all this, everyone who comes to us to register as a voter must come on his own terms. Recently, we had the EU Observer Mission. When they came, one of the things they told the Electoral Commission was that it's outmoded or it's antiquated for somebody to come and vote for the citizenship or for the age of another person in 21st century Ghana. And when you talk about election management, Ghana is the best in the sub-region and even in the continental wide. So we are committed. Our objective is to ensure that we have a system that is very scientific, that is very, very credible, and all of us are ready to support that. And there was a question on the persons with disabilities. Please, wherever our offices are not located on the ground floor, during registration, they come down to register people. So if there are people with disabilities, automatically they've been told that you have to come down and register them. And nationwide, we have about 5 or 6 offices where they are not using the ground floor. They are supposed, they are required. So please, if you encountered somebody who had a disability with a problem, that's not the standard practice. We don't do that. They are supposed to come down to attend to all of them. I think there was a question of whether the EC would take its chances with the CI. Yeah, I think as Mr. Hansen Ajimai, as you pointed out, it's in the Constitution, Article 11, I think Article 11.7, that when it comes to laying of CI, the EC is supposed to. You lay it in Parliament by 2/3 majority. But I think the EC, our job is, we don't work for ourselves. The chair and the team, our objective is to let's come together and let's build a system that all Ghanaians will be proud of. So we are not saying by hook or crook, but what the Commission is saying, we want to work with Parliament, the media, the civil society, so that all of us will understand that the level we've got into as a country, we need a system that is very, very robust. So the EC, we are very convinced that with the work that the NIA has begun, very soon, maybe before the end of the year, all those who qualify to get the card would have gotten and will be able to lay the CI next year. I think the question of overflogging the issue of, is it the challenge system or the guarantor? The minors. And please, you know, the beauty about democracy, do you remember in 2008, the presidential election was won with how many votes? Think about 40,000 something. So let's be very clear. If every polling station, we get 2 people who are not qualified to be on the register. Now we are doing 38,622 polling stations. So if 2 persons who are not qualified, they get on the voters register at each polling station, how many people are we looking at? Do you know some parliamentary elections are won with some 5 votes? I think we've had even 3 votes. We've had that. So if we make that mistake, and what the Electoral Commission, what we are doing is that this is political party neutral. Let's ensure that all of us have a system that is credible. That's what the Electoral Commission is only saying. So Mr. Asante, I think all of you, the media, you are going to support us to ensure that we have and the people we saw there, the people you saw in the picture, can you really vouch that these people are 18 years? Can we really vouch? And those are the things the Electoral Commission we are talking about.
So that's Dr. Bosman Asare. He is a deputy commissioner of the Electoral Commission. We've just been bringing you excerpts of the news conference organized by the Electoral Commission a short while ago. We're going to stay on with the Electoral Commission because civil society groups are up in arms over the appointment of two of the commissioners, Dr. PJ. I think that's been in the news for quite a while. So the coalition of civil society organizations say they will resort to the courts to remove the two EC commissioners deemed to be politically exposed to preserve the integrity of the election management body. The appointment of Dr. Peter Apiahene and Hajia Salina Tijani, according to them, erodes the principle of fairness associated with the Electoral Commission. My colleague Duke Menso Opoku will join us shortly in Sudiba. Here's a news desk report detailing exactly what it is that the CSOs have been saying.
The coalition made up of the Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, Institute for Democratic Governance, IDEG, among others, argues that the resignation would safeguard the trust in the Electoral Commission. The President's appointment of Dr. Peter Apiahene and Hajia Salima Tijani sparked public concern, prompting the NDC to petition the Council of State. Dr. Kojo Asante of CDD Ghana explained the concerns of the CSOs.
The appeal is a better way of kind of stepping back rather than forcing the issue into it, going to court, and because sometimes legalization of these kinds of issues doesn't help. I think we have to understand that if the democracy we want to progress, the individuals themselves, if there are ways in which to appeal to them, that you don't want to have to be under this cloud. And I hope that common sense will prevail in that sense.
Former New Patriotic Party Chairman Peter Mawuena emphasized the need for reforms in EC appointments.
I've gone through the electoral system with the IPAC, and most of the appointments in the previous years were skewed. We bore the pain, but we sat and went through it and won the elections in 2016. So if we put it in the public domain that Mr. A or B has been found as a lecturer, a TESCON patron at Sunyani Polytechnic, so the entire electoral process should break down, I beg to differ.
Director for CSO Engagement of the NDC, Peter Boama Otukono, expressed concern over the silence of civil society and the media regarding the attempted politicization of the Electoral Commission.
What emboldened the president? Remember that after her appointment, some deputy was also appointed. And that deputy, we also know very well, as a TESCOM patron, we raised thorough concerns. Nothing was done. He has performed. We have seen his posture. We have seen the way he talks. We've seen the way he acts. And still, there is no element of independence.
A news desk report detailing the concerns of civil society groups, the position of political parties as well as the other groupings in the country's election space. And it's a conversation that's been brewing for quite a while. It's a subject of a Supreme Court hearing, as a matter of fact, as to the dates that's been fixed for that particular hearing, not quite clear yet, but it is a subject of the court as well. The appointment of Dr. Peter Apiahene and Hajia Salina Tijani was seeking to work the telephone lines to get a bit more on this particular conversation. It's come up again. The NDC were frontal and raising the concerns when the appointments were made. In fact, they, per their diggings, came up with the details to suggest that Dr. Peter Apiahene and Hajia Salina Tijani were actually or had ties to the governing New Patriotic Party. Nothing's been done in that regard. It has even drawn in the Council of State and the sort of checks and balances they seek to do on individuals and groupings before they recommend or provide advice to the president to make such appointments. In fact, this appointment brought into the fold the conversation on the role of the Council of State as well. And so it is a conversation that one that continues to get a lot of people interested. Dr. Jonathan Asante-Otre is a political analyst with the University of Cape Coast, joined us on the telephone lines for a conversation. Doc, a lot of people remember the concerns which were raised by the NDC. It's become a subject of a Supreme Court hearing, date yet to be fixed as we know, or final determination to be given to the matter yet to be known. But now, civil society organizations as well are raising the red flags over the same matter, and even adding that they will go to court over this should nothing be done, if that is, they don't resign.
Well, quite impressive. Yeah. So let me say good evening to your listeners. The point is that elections and its acceptability thrive on transparency, honesty, fairness. Now, the Constitution, as it were, provides a situation where we have the Electoral Commission who are supposed to be referees, but not, a kind of players and referees at the same time. Now, it is often the case that if things of that nature, if we gloss our eyes over things of that nature, they are a recipe for future disaster. Because I've always said that if you lose, you should lose on transparent ground. It shouldn't be that someone is thinking that someone has been quite manipulative behind the scenes, for which reason you have lost. For the president to do such appointment leave much to be desired. I think that our president has been quite incredulous. And you see, the Constitution, in its own wisdom, tells that an executive president will be divorced from things of that nature. But of course, I think that having this issue resurrected by these civil society organizations, it is quite good, because it doesn't always have to be the opposition, so that people look at these issues as though they are partisan. But people like some of us, the CSOs, ordinary Ghanaians, and when you know things of that nature, the person has been in the public domain doing things of that nature, it tells me that our president lacks integrity. It's as if the president has planned something beforehand, you see, and you are creating more room for people to doubt the process even before, it gets rolled. And things of that nature, we need to, as ordinary Ghanaians, think tanks, CSOs, we need to voice our grievances when it comes to things of that nature, because we only have one country. Parties must come, parties must go. Our democracy must stay. Because if the process is mad and there is a military takeover, where will be the opportunity for you to come to power? You will not get that opportunity. And believe you me, you shouldn't always think that you have people protecting you. Those protecting you equally have families that they must also protect. So you need to forthright, you see, and think of the fact that there was someone in power, you won and you came. You shouldn't think that you want to be a king god and that your party should stay in perpetuity. It just does not work like that. The mandate of the people must be clear, and that whom they decide to give that mandate to should not be thwarted by the efforts of some kind of miscreant within our system. I don't think that it augurs well for our democracy. We have been a beacon of Africa. We have our own flaws in terms of some of these things that we are even coming down. Press freedom, we are coming down. Peace and others, we are even experiencing some insecurities in the north. Today we are talking about terrorism and other things. All these things are precursors. If we are not careful and look into the issues as it ought to be, so that whoever wins, wins, whoever loses, loses, and we all accept and move on, I think that we are heading towards a kind of doom that will not augur well for all of us. And so I'm very happy that they are even threatening that if they don't resign, they will take the next step. I hope our court, the judges, will look into that and also understand that, look, this is one country that we all belong. You are a judge because the Constitution is active. If the Constitution is overthrown, where lies your locus within the system?
Considering that already a member of parliament in the NDC, that's the South Dai MP Roxy Nelson Dapiamekpo, has put up a case before the Supreme Court, we're yet to hear anything from the court as to when a date could be fixed for hearing and all of that. Should we be expecting a lot more from the court now that civil society groups are raising similar concerns and are also threatening legal action?
I hope so. Because you see, for example, the NDC and other parties filing for an injunction against the process that the electoral commission has put in place. And then that period, the hearing of that injunction is beyond that period. I mean, it bastardizes the law. It makes people believe that things that the former president said about our court, our judges, may be true. So if all this while, an issue as crucial as this, next year is election year, our Supreme Court has not thought it wise for now to look into the issue. Look at what happened to Dominic, only for the judgment to come out at when the damage has already been caused and committed. Things of that nature, we need our Supreme Court to be up and doing. Take, for example, when Abdullah took that matter of quorum to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court looked into it. Why? Because they realized that it is definitely going to affect the budget and it could affect the security. So they looked into the issue hurriedly. Now, when it came to the E-levy and its passing, a group of minorities took the matter to court. And up to now, the only thing the Supreme Court told all of us is that they should keep the money and ensure that once the ruling comes out and they are supposed to reverse, you give back every Ghanaian who has paid an E-levy. What has happened to that particular issue? So this nitpicking, it puts and it taints the integrity of our judiciary and the Supreme Court, which ought not to be the case. It's supposed to be a sacrosanct kind of institution that is revered. So if it becomes politicized and people are picking and choosing, it gives credence to what the likes of the former president have said about the Supreme Court. It may not be palatable. Statement like that may not be palatable, but it appears to be the reality because of the things they keep doing. So I hope and pray that they look into the issue as it should be, because I want to think that probably it is the Dapiamekpo who happens to be a member of the NDC, or which is they may consider it as partisanly led. But what about the CSOs? So I think that I will even urge the likes of Peter that look, the peace of this country is as crucial for him and his family. He shouldn't let partisanship take the better part of his senses.
Doc, I appreciate that you could speak to us this evening.
You're welcome, Mawuena.
That's Dr. Jonathan Asante-Otre. He's a political analyst with the University of Cape Coast, speaking to us this evening here on Hot Edition. And there's some big news coming through this evening in relation to the conversation on dialysis and the notice which was posted by management of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, perhaps not management, but the department in charge of the renal dialysis, subsequently withdrawn, and a statement coming through from management of the authority. What we here at 3FM are learning that the Ministry of Health has summoned the management of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital following the announcement of new dialysis cost. The PRO of the ministry has been informing us that the ministry may consider calls of enrolling dialysis and other kidney-related treatment on the National Health Insurance Authority. It's something that we're looking at closely as we work the phone lines to get a bit more details on this, possibly speak to Mr. Isaac Ofer and get a bit more on this for you. But the news is that the Health Ministry has summoned management of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital over this particular subject matter. It is a topic that's been red hot since the flyer began circulating on social media. It's caused a lot of controversy amidst many things. But here's a report that my colleague Gordon Asiriba put together after visiting a patient yesterday, and harrowing tale as to the difficulty in living with the disease and even having to think about how they're having to cough up a bit more just to be able to get health care. Here's Gordon Asiriba with that report.
A growing crisis is escalating in Ghana, posing a significant threat to healthcare access and human survival. In a quiet embrace of nature's shelter, an orphaned lady sheds tears. At 25, Mercy Mensah is grappling with the constant threat of kidney failure.
If I were having a parent, maybe my parents will try their best, but because I don't have them, I feel sad.
This has been Mercy's daily routine for the past year, waiting for a miracle to happen.
I want to do my transplant because they say I should do the transplant. And dialysis, I don't get the money for dialysis. What about the transplant?
Following the high cost of living, she has to cancel her scheduled session due to the increasing medical fees.
Monday and Thursday, that's supposed to go. But because of the money, I wasn't able to go for dialysis last Monday. When I get money, I go. When I don't get, I stay home.
Deprived of a regular life due to her condition, Mercy survives every day by a glimmer of hope, albeit her future is riddled with uncertainty. She needs $50,000 for a kidney transplant in India.
Normally, they will need a vein. They will need a vein to put the needle in.
The increasing cost of dialysis is causing patients to face financial struggles, making it difficult to maintain their health. Daniel Mensah, not his real name, is facing the same struggle.
So those people who died, basically it's upon this. No regular dialysis, they didn't have money to go for at the private. And then probably the places they were going were not good. Another thing I will appeal to that, if Kolibu will be checking the private dialysis centers, they have to check them. Because most of them, their water treatment is very bad. But because of the cost of living. So right now, even if I have 100 cedis and I spend 20 cedis, now I have to spend 10 cedis because I'm come to pay 700 and something. So you can imagine.
He says the rising cost of dialysis is causing kidney patients to make life-threatening decisions as their lives are being impacted by the financial burden. The cost of medication for kidney patients in Ghana has significantly increased. Chronic kidney disease patients require regular dialysis sessions as a lifeline, but the increasing financial burden is causing a perilous dilemma.
My colleague Gordon Asiriba with that report. It is something that we will follow and provide details for you, but this is still Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. A reminder of our top stories for you this evening. Electoral Commission says it will return to Parliament with a new CI insisting on the use of Ghana card as a sole identifier and getting onto the electoral roll following minor registrations recorded during its ongoing limited voter registration process. Also, civil society groups are demanding the resignation of 2 EC commissioners amid threats of legal action to compel them to resign. Let's focus now on the minority in Parliament because they've raised concerns about the National Investment Bank, the NIB, urging the government to undertake a restructuring of the bank's balance sheet. It follows discussions for a merger between ADB and the NIB, and the move is believed to be part of the International Monetary Fund program, which requires the central bank to complete the remaining tasks from its financial sector cleanup, that is addressing the insolvency of the National Investment Bank and the undercapitalization of special deposit-taking institutions. While addressing a news conference today, ranking member on Parliament's Finance Committee, Isaac Adongo, kicked against the move, insisting there is a viable alternative.
The law requires that if the Bank of Ghana is not satisfied with NIB, it has several options, including placing NIB under administration like they place Unibank under administration, revoke the license of NIB because that is their property, but in revoking the license, they must take steps to ensure that depositors' funds are protected by placing it under receivership and proper supervision to close the face of life. But it is clear from the work that we are seeing and the actions of government that they are not intending to take a regulatory action. They are not intending to place NIB under Act 930, but they are trying to find a backdoor approach without regard to the law that set up NIB. And the law that set up NIB anticipated. Government should just restructure the balance sheet of NIB to swap all the NIB debts that it owes to government and give government equity. Government says it doesn't have money to capitalize the bank, but it has given 500 million debt bond to NIB. It has given 800 million debt to NIB. The two give you how much? 1.3 billion. Is that not it? It is your money. You own the bank. The money is already sitting there. Commit to saying that that is my contribution towards recapitalization, so that we issue shares for you and move the money to you. The 2.4 billion, you see that immediately 1.3 will disappear. Is that not the case? We will have 1.1 billion. The 500 million of the 1.3 billion, when they came to give the 500 million, they looked for the most important asset on the balance sheet of NIB and harvested it. And Oforeta and his people took the NIB necessary shares, the 24% shares, the most valuable item on their balance sheet. They took it to the finance people. I just want to hope that that thing has not walked into somebody's house. So now that we have given you shares for the 500 million, do you have a business holding our necessary shares? Bring it back. When you now bring it back, NIB should sell those shares for 500 million and realize a capital gain of 450 million to increase the equity by that amount to 1.75 billion.
That's Isaac Adongo, is the ranking on the Finance Committee of Parliament. Let's go on the telephone line. Professor John Gachi is the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School. Prof, I thank you for joining us this evening and for your patience as well in holding the line for us. Hello, Prof. Hello? It appears Professor John Gachi is now on the telephone line with us. We're going to try one more time and connect with him. Professor John Gachi is the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School. Well, Isaac Adongo was not the only one who spoke. The minority leader, I should say, Dr. Keselato Forson, said his side will resist any attempt to sell off the banks. But let's go and speak to Professor John Gachi. Prof, apologies, as you had to hold the line for quite a while. He's the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School. Straight to the matter, the fact that talks are already underway for a possible takeover, it's not in contention. However, concerns have been raised about the move. There must be something positive about the takeover. What is that positive thing that could be there that the minority appears not to be seeing?
Well, on the face of it, it sounds positive. But if you work out the implications, then we are to be worried. Number one, if you look at the shareholders of ADB who are acquiring NIB, we have Bank of Ghana there, who is the regulator, who under normal circumstances should not be holding shares in commercial banks. That is an issue we have to deal with. Then you recall that during the banking sector cleanup, the government of Ghana established an SPV called Ghana Amalgamated Trust, that holds about 11% in ADB and also holds some significant shares in NIB. I don't know how a shareholder will be buying his shares in another bank. That is strange development. We need to check that. So you realize that if we are not careful, this is the beginning and the end of both ADB and NIB. Now, I've heard the minority press conference on NIB. I must put on record that the issue of using Nestle share to raise funds to capitalize NIB was one of the key things put on the table long before 2016. So these have been on the table all the time. And it was also reported that the finance ministry did not agree to that simple arrangement, and that the shares of Nestle, which was the investment of NIB, was transferred to finance ministry, and something was done in exchange for it. So you could see that it sounds like an arrangement just to weaken the balance sheet of NIB to suffer the fate that is suffering today for a possible sellout in the near future.
And so you believe that this has been long coming since the decision by the finance ministry to reject going on to the stock exchange to float shares and instead selling it off to the finance ministry?
Well, if you look at the management of NIB, of NIB started with that was crystallized.
Hello, Prof. We're having a bit of a challenge with the line. We've just lost you after I asked that first question. Perhaps we'll try again and see if it's clearer. You were seeking to answer the question as to whether or not this has been long coming, and also the concern you raised about the confliction of both shareholders on the side of ADB and then NIB seeking to take over, amongst other things. Hello, Prof. Fortunately, we'll have to try one more time and connect with Professor John Gachi. Hopefully, he will answer that question for us, and then we could find out what viable alternatives there could be if the takeover, for instance, is not the way to go. The minority says government should convert NIB's indebtedness into its equity, go on to stock exchange, float the shares, get people to buy the shares. That's capital that can be pumped into the bank to see to capitalization and have the bank stay up, amongst other things. Is that the way to go? Amongst other things, we'll seek to do or get responses in that regard. Prof. Gachi has joined us again. Prof, hopefully the line is better this time round. You were seeking to answer that question as to whether or not it is the case that the confliction from shareholders on the part of ADB and NIB could pose serious concern. You seem to be of the opinion that that should be looked at, but also you make the point that perhaps this has been planned long ago by authorities or persons in the helm of affairs, reason why we're seeing it play out now. Right, it seems we're having difficulties with the telephone line. So Professor John Gachiba, I told you about the development in relation to the health ministry, someone in management of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. We can take a listen now to the announcement as we have it captured on tape.
They have not even brought any proposal to the ministry for consideration and onward forward to Parliament for approval. And what the Chief Executive is saying is that even at their management level, that is at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital management level, That decision had not yet been finalized or concluded. There is a need for an increment in the price of dialysis because of the cost of production. But then, before you increase, then there's the need for a proper procedure to be taken or caution to be taken, like sending the proposal or the proposed price to Parliament for approval as a fees before you are able to charge. But these have not gotten to us yet. And even if it has gotten to the ministry, it should be before Parliament. And Parliament will have to approve that before it is charged. It is in line with this that the ministry, so there is no need charging that amount at the various places where they are taking it. It is not yet on the table of the ministry. That has not gotten to the ministry yet. The chief executive is saying that they have not concluded the finality of that pricing. And so until they conclude, before they would even forward through the ministry to Parliament for approval, since they have not finalized, they have not concluded, it is in line with that the Honorable Minister quickly cautioned them. The ministry has summoned for an urgent meeting, and then quickly they are asked to reverse the prices that they have put out there, reverse back to the old pricing as we take a final decision on.
That's Isaac Ofer. He's the public relations officer of the ministry, speaking to us there. And time for business. Michael Ogbudu is here with the latest from the world of business. Mike, what's in business?
Hello there. Welcome to the business segment here on Hot Edition. My name is Michael Ogbudu. Straight into our first story, as the Ghana Association of Banks has voiced deep concern over what it describes as the persistent delays within the judicial system in adjudicating non-performing loan cases between struggling borrowers and banks. According to the association, this protracted legal process is severely impeding the bank's ability to maintain adequate liquidity. Chief Executive Officer of the association, John Ihua's comment is coming at a time when non-performing loans reach 20%, the highest in the last 5 years.
As a bank, when you are operating and you have this SME who you gave a loan to 18 months ago, all of a sudden, due to one or two issues, the loan is distressed. You want to ensure recovery so that you can make that fund available to the next good SME. You go to the court system and it takes you for 5 years. For 5 years to ensure a common recovery. You are holding mortgage documentation. You go to Lands Commission and that mortgage is being remortgaged to somebody else. Or that mortgage has been sold. Or it's been all kinds of things happening in these big national institutions. Sometimes it baffles us, the judicial system, a trusted institution, and you go to the law courts and the way lawyers are playing the banks. One case, you can go to court 180 times and you will not have judgments.
That was the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Association of Banks, John Ihua, speaking there. Away from that, Executive Secretary of the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, Sami Amegaibo, is worried that the government's involvement in providing affordable homes. According to him, the government has no business competing with private developers. Instead, it should provide favorable conditions for them. He spoke on the sidelines of the launch of the Lakeside Estates Hills project.
Private entities like Lakeside and the rest are doing their best, in spite of all the difficulties and challenges, are still contributing to the housing stock, and they need to be praised and commended. Why is it that we have local developers who are doing so well, but you hardly hear that government has approached any of these developers, has sat down with them and said, look, if you are delivering a house at 50,000 Ghana, 100,000 Ghana, 120,000 Ghana, and I support you with this and that and that, will you be able to reduce a house to so much? You don't hear any of that. You hear government becoming a competitor, also trying to deliver houses as if we are in competition. Government is doing affordable housing there, and then Lakeside or other greater members are developing houses there, and then both of them are selling on the market. What kind of competition is this? Government's role in affordable housing must be facilitation.
Executive Secretary of the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, Sami Amegaibo. Now, finally, the Chief Technical Officer of the Energy Service Center of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, has encouraged Ghanaian companies to improve their energy efficiency to take advantage of the international market. Babel Freya urged industries to take advantage of the AGI's energy efficiency network to build their capacity in the wake of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
with this launch, we're making a starting point of the industry who is committing itself to become energy efficient. So that is on two sides. We can talk about climate protection, global warming. We are taking care of the environment with energy efficiency activities, but at the same time, in taking care of their own environment, in doing the energy efficiency activities. The industry will likely be also more competitive in the market, not only in the Ghanaian market, but also in the market outside, or AFC FTA, as you heard, and elsewhere, also internationally. So there's a great chance that not only becoming greener, but also becoming more competitive and saving a lot of monies due to energy savings.
Chief Technical Officer of the Energy Service Center of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, Babel Fryer. Now, that will be all for the business segment.
Right then, many thanks, Michael, for the latest from the world of business. Time to do sports. He's here with the very latest. I can't believe this. Oh my goodness.
Hi, Mawuena.
Yeah, trust that you're well.
Yeah, I'm well.
What's in sports?
And so we'll be talking a lot about the AFCON, the upcoming one, and then the forthcoming ones, which are some years away. But let's start with the 2027 edition because it's official. Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania will co-host the tournament, the East African Pomoja Sock-Off competition from Senegal, Egypt, and Botswana. Kenyan sports journalist Eric Mawuena explains why he thinks the Confederations of African Football selected East Africa ahead of other prominent countries.
Considering the countries that we were going against or head-to-head with, I mean, we had probably little to no chance. I think what worked for us, the trick, is that West Africa has been hosting these tournaments for some time now. Cameroon hosted. We're going to Ivory Coast next year. Guinea was given until they pulled out. So there was that, like, people feeling it's one region. And I think the president and CAF Exco are feeling that if they take it to West Africa again, they'll get a backlash. Obviously, Senegal are a good host. They have good players. They have a good stadium that they built the other day. But I think the fact that we presented something new, something different, and a new region won people.
And so that was the reason why probably Eric Mawuena believes that the Africa Cup of Nations would be heading to Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. But let's head to the next edition, not the 2027 edition of the Africa Cup of Nations, the next edition, which will be taking place in Ivory Coast. And the Confederations of African Football has confirmed that the Africa Cup of Nations trophy will tour selected countries on the continent as part of the build-up to the 34th edition of the tournament in Côte d'Ivoire. Now, Ghana's capital, Accra, will host the trophy for 3 days. That's between November 26th and 29th, 2023. The trophy tour across the African continent will be organized by the title sponsor Total Energies as part of the pre-tournament activities, and the tour will begin from Senegal, who are the defending champions, from September 24 to 27, before moving to Equatorial Guinea, DR Congo, Tunisia, Algeria, Egypt, Guinea, South Africa, Nigeria, Angola, Zambia, Morocco, Tanzania, Cameroon, and Mozambique, before finally landing in Abidjan in December for the forthcoming tournament. Now, before we go, let's head overseas, where Newcastle forward Alexander Isak, who scored the winning goal against Manchester City in the third round of the Carabao Cup, believes that the club have shown enough ambition and could go a step further. The Magpies reached the final of the Carabao Cup last season, losing to Manchester United.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we want to compete in all competitions that we participate in, and we won today, and now it's on to the next, and it's Premier League. So we have to focus on each competition when it comes.
And that's how we'll be wrapping up the sport here on Hot Edition.
Many thanks, Oreko. I'm not going to make the same mistake a second time. Oreko Ampofo with the very latest from the world of sport. That means we switch lanes and do entertainment now. Anita Kufu is here with that. And we'll get into entertainment shortly and tell you exactly what it is that's happening. But A lot later, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice Charge has criticized the Interior Ministry and National Securities for their silence on alleged protester brutality during the occupied Jolobi House demonstration. We'll let you in on that shortly, but let's do entertainment now.
All right, so let's go.
Right then, let's...
All right, so in entertainment this evening, outspoken Ghanaian actress and filmmaker Yvonne Nelson has called out President Akufo-Addo for failing to deliver on his promises to Ghanaians and taking to her X account to express her grievances. Yvonne Nelson posted a video depicting a sinking island being weighed down by anchors made of foreign currencies, while locals of the island flee on the ships and boats. The video further shows the leaders on top of the island receiving aid from a helicopter with IMF written on it, while the spirit of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah weeps and a supreme being angrily watching. She captioned the video, "All the campaign empty promises mixed with a big English assorted with the family and friends equals a failure at Nana Akufo-Addo." Obviously, Yvonne is still not happy with everything that's going on, and she's calling for a better government and a better Ghana.
I'm surprised she wasn't taken on during the hashtag, because it took on a lot of celebrities.
Has always been on that tangent for years.
She's done. I think
she was
her
spared.
book even, she gave it to the president quite well, so maybe...
She was spared a bit. I mean, they were quite, easy on her. But away from that, let's talk some tourism. And the 2023 World Tourism Day has been marked in Ghana with a call to action to stakeholders to chart a new course for the growth of this sector centered on environmental conservation, job creation, and economic resilience. Themed tourism and green investment, the celebration highlighted the critical need for sustainable and eco-friendly practices in the sector to promote responsible tourism.
Welcome to Ghana.
The World Tourism Day is marked on the 27th of September each year to showcase the tourism sector's unique ability to drive economic growth, preserve and promote culture and heritage, and provide opportunities for all. Held in the beautiful city of Adan, this year's celebration themed Tourism and Green Investments highlighted the power of green investments in creating a better world. Deputy Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Marco Kwekumante, encouraged stakeholders to adopt more responsible practices, citing the far-reaching economic, social and environmental benefits of green investment to communities.
We must accept it that our world today, we don't even need a scientist to tell us that it's become extremely warm. When I was growing up, you could sleep in your bedroom without any air conditioning system. But today, any young person is looking for money to purchase an air conditioning system because it is warm. And we've caused it by how we have abused the environment. Typical one, Galam say, today people are mining the sand by the sea. We are destroying the earth we live on. And so all we are saying is that we should get people to understand that it's about time we protected Earth, Mother Earth, by taking the right decisions. Environment clean. Let's not destroy nature. Whatever you touch, make sure you sustain it.
Akwesi Agyeman is the CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority.
There's a call to action that we should be mindful of our actions and how our actions are impacting the environment negatively. Celebrate this day, and we're talking about green investment. Ghanaians, we need to change our attitudes towards the environment. When you eat food, you drink water, hold on to your quote-unquote trash. Take it home or find a dustbin and put it in. It's also a call to action for business owners to start looking at sustainable ways of doing business. We cannot continue to degrade the environment.
Other key stakeholders, including the paramount chief of Adar Traditional Area, Nene Kabu Akwaku III, called for policies and regulations to promote responsible tourism in order to protect the planet and drive economic growth. The 2023 World Tourism Day celebration started with a tour of the Inchinchi Museum in Adar, a space dedicated to visual archiving of African history and African heritage by officials of the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Ghana Tourism Authority, and other key stakeholders. The team also took a ferry trip on the River Volta, touring around the Adar estuary and at the various islands dotted along the River Volta.
All right, right, so that's it for the entertainment news segment. For more updates from the world of entertainment, do follow us on our social media platforms. It's 3 Entertainment, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. Eric?
Right then, many thanks, Anita, with the very latest from the world of entertainment. I was telling you about Shraj and its position on the silence of the Interior and National Security Ministries. The Shraj Commissioner Joseph Whittal, he tells 3FM in an exclusive interview that such lack of correspondence does not foster public trust and consensus.
Hundreds of demonstrators in Accra held a 3-day anti-government protest against poor governance and economic hardships, accusing police of abuse, harassment and suppression after 49 suspects were arrested for unlawful assembly and Public Order Act violations. The police say the arrest was after the protesters defied a court order prohibiting them from protesting in the vicinity of the Jubilee House. However, the Commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Joseph Whittal, says the police misconducted themselves.
In a democracy, rule of law should be the basis for determining how the police and the citizens relate. There is a need for rapport between they and the citizens who are demonstrating. It is a right of the people. So if they are on the street, don't approach them from the attitude of the colonial mentality. If you don't do what we want, we will beat you. No, that is completely out of the way. That's what happened. You have to build the rapport, and they will know that if you said you wouldn't let them go to the Jubilee House because it is a security area, make them know that that is it. But don't, and of course you can barricade that place, but don't go to the extent of saying, if you attempt to march towards that direction, we will beat you. And as a result, you will arrest them and lock them up. No, that's not the case.
He expressed his disapproval of the Interior and National Security Ministries for their reluctance to address the issue.
The security agencies get to know that the power to protect the citizens has been given by the citizens. Communicating with them on matters of even national security, that is possible. There's nothing wrong with it. But for the Minister of Interior, the Minister of Defense, we have not heard of them. Minister for National Security, we have not heard. In respect of what has gone on, it's a bit unfortunate.
That's Commissioner of Shraj, Joseph Whittal, there speaking to us. And in this evening's edition of Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. As always, a lot more news if you log on to 3news.com. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. Many thanks for listening.